and welcome to the War in the Pacific, where it is the 11th of February 1942 in the Wirraway versus Encircled Clave Mail campaign. With the successful landings on southern Luzon, it looks like the undefended base flipped to Japanese ownership. Maruna's bombarding in support of the landings at Diamond Harbor today. I set Haruna and Congo to bombard at a range of 18,000 yards, which is just beyond the range of the 6-inch guns of the Diamond Harbor defenses. No reason to risk their damage for this purpose. Here comes the landings, supported by ICE and some old cruisers. It's like 33rd Division and the support troops are ashore in good order. No immediate naval reaction from the Allies in and around Diamond Harbor. Looks like his naval search has finally detected my transport task forces and deception task forces off northern Australia. Zero sweeping ahead of the bombers, still hammering the retreating Allies in Burma. Some preliminary sweeps in the skies above Wuchao as we close in on Wuchao. Zero sweeping ahead of our bombers, trying to hammer the Chinese both in the defense and moving about in what I'll call the Lanchao Xi'an sector. So Val's and Kate's from Shikoku and Zuikaku supporting the landings. They're at 9,000 feet, which puts them just within 40 millimeter Bofors range, but it's also the altitude in which the Vals won't dive bomb, they'll level bomb. So losses are typically negligible. It's hard to see here, but he has some ships in Calcutta Harbor. I suspect we're going to find uh, he that this is a cap trap. We'll see at the end of the turn, but in this case, Cardiff 5 is careful not to send any of its attack aircraft in Calcutta, uh, because his style, propensity, is to put a couple small ships out there and then put as many fighters as he can. And of course, the game algorithm sends an entire strike package after them. Uh, it's, I consider a game exploit, uh, but it is a pretty, in this case, though, unless his carriers show up and there's no sign of them because our extensive naval air search would have picked up on them. Looks like Cardiff 5 will accomplish its mission of supporting the landings and not falling into any traps. You can see the Sallies are wrecking their retreating Chinese. Lilies hitting the airfield. Palembang slowing up fort building and also suppressing the airfield. Both Sallies and Lilies pounding the remaining Dutch and Australian troops at Kopang. Pounding might be an exaggeration. Lilies hitting the Chinese at Wuchao. I want to make sure that these units are knocked out of move mode if they're trying to withdraw. So our units have time to get to Wuchao and fight in the clear terrain. Russian bombers flown by the Chinese hit our troops at Hami. This is about the last turn he'll be able to do that. We have flown in aviation support, and we have some Zeros and or Oscars that can provide air cover as our troops begin the advance from Hami to Rumchi. Interesting. So his B-17s go after my Special Naval Landing Force units that have just landed at Legazpi. I guess the advantage here is by bombing, he knows what's. He doesn't really know what's there. It's only the Curie Special Naval Landing Force that he detected by bombing. Since the base flipped, I didn't have to attack, so it didn't give away what's actually there. Let's see if anything different happens in the afternoon phase. So it looks like his destroyers are back in and around Manila. Okay. Not much else happened. Okay. So these are the tank units that pursued from combat last turn. And it looks like they drove off all the ash and trash except a single unit, which is unfortunate. Okay. Speed through the end of the turn. Quick check if anything unusual happened. A Lily, a Sally, a Mavis, a Mel, a Babs. We saw the Catalina shut down. Okay, let's take a look here. So yes, as I suspected, see, he's got some patrol boats out in Calcutta, and he has presumably 42 fighters on cap. His bombers were at Diamond Harbor. I assume they will rail out this turn. And then our Calcutta Invasion Task Force is now just as in position. So assuming 33rd, which is in good shape, is able to take Diamond Harbor this turn, then we'll send in the Destroyer Minesweepers ahead of the actual invasion task force while Cardiff 5 provides cover, and Shoho will join Cardiff 5 while Kaiho will provide close cap for the amphibious convoys as it approaches. So that operation looks overall in good shape. We've got paratroopers positioned. We need to recon him for this turn because I don't drop on it next turn and cut this rail line to Lido if, if possible, assuming that it isn't adequately garrisoned. Meanwhile, in Burma, we continue to advance towards Mandalay and then Lasha. Don't want to try to take Magway and its oil until I have the large airfields. I say large, they're relatively large speaking. The Calcutta and Dhaka in my hands, so he can't easily fly heavy bombers. Lasho's still level 2, so it's just Lido, Dhaka, and Calcutta will be easy to take in the next few days. Lido may be a little trickier, but again, no rush. I don't need the oil in the short run, and so I have the time to make sure I'm prepared to defend this oil adequately, try to keep it as much as possible. So let's check to see how close we are. Wu Chao, I assume he'll try to start as soon as he realizes the scale of the force advancing, he'll try to retreat. So he might try to use fighters to cover the retreat. He may not. Here is a single unit. I think it was the base force didn't retreat, so we'll try to knock it out next turn and get a bridgehead afterwards at Tinshui while continuing on our primary objective at this point, which is Gunchang as the gateway to Lanchao. Meanwhile, this cavalry unit will advance from the north. I assume Xinjiang is reasonably well defended, but we'll press forward and at least scout it. Meanwhile, I think we're in position now. We have adequate aviation support, and this task force, if you will, of separate regiments and armor and artillery and engineers will advance on its long-term objective, which is Urumqi. So our landings at Legazpi were essentially uncontested. They'll advance north. We continue our advance south. And I withdrew this amphibious task force, expecting that his destroyers might intervene. I think we last sighted them here. They've been operating out of Batangas. Um, it's fine. I've got enough supply to take Naga, uh, and then we'll further reinforce this supporting southern offensive. These guys will move around and unload at Apari, where I'm already unloading a division, another division for this eastern axis of advance, while three divisions are on the western axis. Let's just check on. So this is our air headquarters heading to Suva. We're going to have to escort it in. This fast transport task force delivered aviation JNF unit to Port Moresby. Also part of the deception plan, these three task forces all went to Port Moresby. And then this Horn Island task force just continued on. Obviously, he knows its target now, but we'll go ahead and this is looks like the typical three small units on Horn Island and the adjacent islands in the Torres Strait. So well positioned to make that amphibious attack tomorrow. Doesn't look like he's got any surface units able to interdict unless they're hiding out at Normington, which is always a possibility. Our deception task forces have been sighted late, but perhaps these invasion deception task forces and this real task force give him the impression of a major push towards Northern Australia, which is not what's actually going on. Of course, he now well aware we're landing in India. So nothing else urgent. Ships at Chicago. Okay. Well, I look forward to our next chance to talk.